Going live. Make it hot.
Welcome to Films in Black and White, everybody. Welcome to Films in Black and White, everybody.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
The beautiful mouth sounds of Marcus
that.
J. How are you all feeling, everybody? We are thrilled to be with you today. We got a fun one, y'all. We got a fun one.
Yes.
That's one way to put it.
We got a fun one to dive into. So I am very excited to talk about this movie. If you showed up here to hear about Mess, we're going to do a little mess. Do a little bit of mess associated with this. We are also going to cover Don't Worry, Darling, which should be a rocking good time. Also, part 2 of Chris's Impossible Movie Challenge is on the docket today. So a little bit of everything. But gentlemen, how are you all feeling? Marcus, I'm worried, darling Destin. How are you doing, sir?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm on my bullshit today. All right.
Oh,
so
what does
I just
that
want
mean?
to fair warn everybody. I'm on some
What does that
bullshit
even
today.
mean?
We gonna find out, because to be honest with you, I don't even know what the fuck it mean. I got a phone call from my mama today. Let me tell you what this phone call detailed. Okay. It was her calling me. I'm getting off of work at 5 on the dot. Had a great day today. Right?
Okay.
Having a great day.
That's good.
Awesome Monday.
All right.
She calls me, and this is the first thing she says to me. It's not hello. She says, Marcus, I was calling to see if you having sex and make sure you ain't got blue balls, because I care about the everyman. And that was the end of the phone call. So, it teetered me off the edge, and now I'm on my bullshit. So if that says anything, that's what the vibes are today.
What you mean to tell me? I don't even want to talk about the phone call because I can't. If we talk about the phone call, we're not going to cover the movie. I'm going to have a lot of questions. But the metaphor for you of being on this cliff and you could have gone off or you could have stayed on, but that this phone call, your mom asking about your blue balls, is what just pushed you over the edge.
This movie had me there.
I get it.
And then that conversation just pushed me over the edge. I was gonna be cordial tonight. I was gonna be cool, calm, and collected, but now I'm on my bullshit. So here we are.
I'm glad. And shout out to Maisha Sellers. Thanks for being a real one.
Mimi.
Yeah.
Shout out to Mimi. You know what I mean?
Thanks for being a real one.
Thanks for being a real one.
That's
checking on her son's blue balls, whatever that means.
Who I have so many questions. I'm also really happy because Brian gets to sit there and squirm a little, which also makes me happy.
What do I do with this information? Nothing. What am I? No, I'm not.
Who is Brian to judge our family dynamics?
No,
you know what I mean.
You suck it away just for a little bit. But Red Plain Roush, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Last week I was super busy week at work. I was recovering from being sick, so I'm a week later feeling way better. Yesterday we took 2 of my kids to the Disney Junior live show downtown Chicago, the traveling show. And it has Spider-Man in it. It was a big deal for the kiddos. So we had a fun time down in the city of Chicago. We were at the Chicago Theater, saw the river, went to the Bean, did a whole bunch of stuff down in the city as well as the show. And the kids also got to see Spider-Man. Now, I don't know. This is Spidey and Friends. This is the children's show. This wasn't an Andrew Garfield or a Tom Holland type situation. These were,
Sorry, a little bit of Inception there.
Yeah, but no. So feeling good and coming off of that high.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad to hear it. And that's a lot of fun. Anytime you can take your kids and do some art is always a good time.
Even if it's Disney art, they got to see Doc McStuffins,
we love Black Doctors.
Yes, we do. We really do.
Black Doctors.
And
we love White Doctors too, but I mean, I don't really know how to make a U-turn on that. But
no, that's all right. Doug, how are you doing?
Save me, Brian. Just save me, Brian.
Brian putting on his red S and diving in to really kind of get after it.
My hero.
I am doing quite well. Things are going well on my end. Busy week. I've got a busy week coming up this week. But I am excited because at the end of this week, I get to go up to SuperCon in Sioux Falls because there's a comic book convention that'll be in Sioux Falls. So I'm gonna try and go up there, which will be really, really fun.
Okay.
And so, yeah, kind of a hope on the horizon. So plug that if you are in the Sioux Falls area, check out SuperCon. It's at the Sioux Falls Convention Center on Friday, Saturday, and I believe Sunday morning. So it'll be a good time. But
I better have some cool shit there too, or I'm gonna be mad.
I'm also gonna be mad. But gentlemen, we have a podcast to get into, and we need to play a round of Chris's Impossible Movie Challenge.
All right. Wow.
So for those of you that don't know, Chris issued a challenge that if we get 10 movie quotes right, he will donate $100 into a charity of our choosing. We are no closer to, in the interest of accountability, we are no closer to selecting a charity. So if you know of one,
we're not.
Been too busy worrying, darling, to pick
a lot of worry. But if you have a charity that you think is worthwhile, I know Roman shot us one called Tickets for Kids. Looks really interesting, so we're going to look into that one. But yeah, so that is what we've got. And so we got to get these right. There's also a films in black and white double down that if we get this one right and we get one right from Roman, who's also promised money for a charity if we get these right, you know, he'll take some of his millions and give it to a charity of our choosing. So
that's a for sure right on.
Thank you to our Patreon members. They are phenomenal and supporting us and supporting these nonprofits. So thank you so much, Roman and Chris.
Yeah, doing great
Doug,
work.
you also did not say what the name of this segment was.
I did. I said it's Chris's Impossible Movie Challenge. Did I not?
That's not the name of this segment.
This is Catch That Quoteable. So
there it is. Okay. There it is. Oh, it's because Marcus wanted to get that song.
The song. I gotta get the song.
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it.
Yeah. He did want to get the song, which I
like
for the sake of continuity.
Obviously.
So,
gentlemen,
we are pretty great.
They are pretty great. They are.
Our Patreon is pretty great.
They are pretty great.
Our Patty fam.
So are you all ready for this week's quote?
For sure. I'm really surprised we made it past one. So I'm proud of ourselves, no matter what happened.
We did a great job. I'm very excited.
We did awesome.
I'm ready to be bewildered. So.
I'm very excited. Yeah. Gentlemen, this week's quote: whether you end up in heaven or hell isn't God's plan. It's your own. You just have to remember what it is.
Oh, God. Okay.
I'm gonna
read it one more time.
Read it again.
Well, not for me, but for the people watching.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
Whether you end up in heaven or hell isn't God's plan. It's your own. You have to remember what it is.
Very religious.
Very definitely has some religiosity tied in there. And I'm going through like all the movies that deal with like
Spawn. I'm just gonna say
Constantine.
I'm just gonna say one of the most I don't know. I honestly have no idea. So
I don't know it.
It's so hard to say goodbye to this challenge song.
It's nice to know that we got it done. Like we were efficient. Like we came out hot.
We can hit the spread on religious devil movies. I mean, right?
Yeah.
We could.
Because
Devil's Advocate.
We can do the Devil's Advocate is one. Okay. Marcus, does this sound like the Devil's Advocate?
No, it does not. Yeah.
I also have a thought of like What Dreams May Come.
What a great movie
that.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
Robin Williams classic. Okay,
yeah. Could see that as being an option.
Nice.
Why not?
As far as other religion, as far as other spiritual movies, Dogma comes to mind. Could also be that. Ooh,
yeah.
Chris Schultens is giggling in the chat.
He's
watching us struggle. Now here's the rule, because Roman brings up a great point. I'm pretty sure I know if you need a hint, I can look it up. Now, Chris, since you're in the chat, are hints allowed for your impossible movie challenge?
if we get it from Roman, can he give us a hint? That's
fair.
if we don't
That feels
generate,
fair.
that feels like we're using our resources,
Yeah.
and we're all about empowerment for this
Mhm.
podcast.
We are.
So,
Yes.
So yeah,
Yes.
so we'll wait for him to chime in the chat with that. I mean,
support and challenge. Yes.
Whatever. I'm trying to think like other like God-oriented movies that deal with the afterlife.
I'm gonna say Spawn.
I love that Spawn. I really love that. That's your guess.
I'm gonna say
I
Spawn
do
because
feel like that's something Spawn would say in a scary voice.
Yeah.
Right before he burns, what's his name alive? It could be something that. Oh, okay.
Could this be? Wait a minute. Could this be Ghost Rider?
Ooh,
Is this
fuck? It could be.
Like Doug, I'm looking at you.
I can't remember the last time that I.
Oh, okay.
We're not even.
Chris Shelton says, "I'll give you a free hint. Y'all aren't even in the same city, let alone the same ballpark."
All right. Okay. Well. Okay.
Well,
I think we're just gonna have to cover the spread.
I feel more insulted than anything.
I think we're just gonna have to cover the spread and each go with our own guess since we're not even in the same ballpark
or the city.
So, Marcus, your guess is locking in Spawn. Okay. Brian,
you know what? Forget it. We're going Ghost Rider, folks.
I love that. I love that it's Ghost Rider. That makes me very excited. I'm going to go with Dogma because I can.
Yeah,
and I feel like that's what.
Yeah,
it is.
I feel like you have to.
Yep. Okay, covering the spread. That's what it is.
All right, that's what we're doing.
Where we're at.
All right,
this has been great playing with y'all. You know what I'm saying? What
it feels like we're
experience.
it feels like we're on a sinking ship. Like
we're the violins on the Titanic.
Yeah, this is great. This is great.
It
everybody.
was an honor, gentlemen.
It was an honor and a privilege.
Women and children first.
Films in black and white last.
Is that Billy Zane in the movie? Carved himself up.
Yeah.
Okay, Brian, I have seen this. I've seen the answer. And I feel like you're going to be mad when you find out what it is.
Oh my gosh, tell me. I need to know.
Brian, this is from the movie Cowboys and Aliens.
Oh my
God. Didn't we just talk about that movie?
We did just talk about this movie.
3 weeks ago we talked about how weird that movie
and
was.
It is said by Meacham, which is fun. So there's that. So they go.
I can't believe we lost the Cowboys and Aliens.
I love that.
That's fine.
I love that our undoing was Cowboys and Aliens. It wasn't
It's fitting. It's fitting in a way.
Nice.
It is.
I mean,
fitting.
In the movies that everybody forgets, I feel like it's a don't forget that one. It is also a movie with Olivia Wilde in it too. So
I was just about to say that.
Oh God, what a tie-in! I feel like Cowboys and Aliens and Jonah Hex. For some reason, I closely relate those two movies together, and I easily forget they both existed until they come back up.
That's very.
I mean, this movie is 11 years old, folks.
Yes.
I mean, I think you're allowed here.
Oof.
Yes.
Wow.
So there you go.
Well, this was nice while it lasted.
We lost.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna still have Chris submit them because I like the idea that he has them. So we'll keep doing it, even though there's nothing on the other end. So So, gentlemen,
boom, boom, boom.
Before we dive into that's womp 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 womp.
Thank you. Price is Right.
Any pieces of news that you all want to touch on? Quick little hits before we dive into our movie this week. Don't worry, darling.
There was something I saw, but I don't know if it was of any significance. Brian, I did want to start off asking you, what have you thought about Andor so far? Just as we are, just like a quick little overview of the three starting episodes.
My friends on this pod, you're giving me an opening to talk about Andor. I will gladly tell you what I think of the new Star Wars show Andor. Yeah, so at the time of this recording, the first 3 episodes are out, and the first 3 I really enjoyed. And I think one of the things about it that I enjoyed was that it like took its sweet time to tell its story. Each episode is about 40 minutes. And it took about 2 hours to get through all of it, and it was really good. If you are familiar with Michael Clayton at all, and you're probably thinking why is he bringing up like a 10-year-old plus George Clooney movie? Tony Gilroy, who's the showrunner, directed that movie, and you can see that type of influence all over Andor. And it is Star Wars at its grittiest, and I think that is exactly the direction Star Wars needs to go.
Okay.
And I'm really enjoying it for the portrayals of both like the pseudo empire. We don't have official empire people yet, but people that work for them, and the community that is terrorized, for lack of a better word. And Stellan Skarsgård shows up at the end of episode 3 and like just knocks out of the park. Any project he is in, it elevates it. But I mean, Diego Luna, he like inhabits this character, and I love seeing where this Rebel Alliance spy who is a huge player in Rogue One. You get to see these small beginnings and how he's just like, this guy is just hanging on for scraps. So first 3 episodes, I'm loving it. I'm loving the slow pace. I definitely understand that this is not going to be a show for everybody. Like, I don't think we're going to have the Mandalorian effect where it's like everybody's talking about the newest episode of Mandalorian around the water cooler. I definitely think this is going to be like a very niche Star Wars thing that other Star Wars people are going to be like, did you like Andor? Yes. Oh yeah. And then like really get into like some of the themes and stuff.
It feels very much, Brian, like just from like what I was only able to watch the first episode because I've been busy and haven't been able to catch up.
Yeah.
But it feels to me like this is the difference between green tea and matcha flavor. Like green tea. Do you enjoy a cup of green tea? Yeah, it's refreshing. It's a nice way to unwind in the middle of the day, and I prefer it to coffee. Do you like matcha? God fucking no. Too strong. It's bitter. I hate it because that's, for those that don't know, matcha's like concentrated green tea flavoring.
I didn't know that.
And so it feels like the difference between you enjoy a cup of green tea and every one in a while, and then someone hands you this and says you'll like this then too.
And then there's people like me who's like more like they're both green though. And so I'm just happy to be here. It's just like, I don't know what I'm not supposed to like. I just know I like Star Wars and I like, this espionage, this spy thriller feel. Sure. I guess if that's okay to say. So like,
oh my gosh, of course it is.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
The only other news that I had was apparently big news on the horn today. Namor came out as a mutant. So our first 2 mutants in the our first 2 mutants in the MCU is Kamala Khan and Namor.
Here we are.
Cool. And I will say, what was it? Empire magazine from the London-based film magazine did a huge spread on everything, and this movie looks awesome. The gorgeous, looks gorgeous. So
yeah. So excited for that.
Awesome. Well, before we dive into like the content of Don't Worry, Darling, I feel like it's important for us to give a rundown of some of the drama that's happened outside of the movie because and here's the reason why I want to do that. I want to cover the drama because I don't want it to impact the opinion of the movie. I want to just kind of get it out of the way to say like, this is where it is. And as of what we know and so on and so forth. So we're going to talk a little bit about the drama. Then we'll kind of unpack the movie a little bit. So there have been rumors and issues in the hemisphere of this particular movie, in the orbit of this movie for a while. And most recently, those of you might know that there was some drama that did Harry Styles spit on Chris Pine at I think at a screening at an award. And so it's interesting. So here's where we're kind of at. So April 24th, 2020, Florence Pugh is announced as the lead housewife on Don't Worry, Darling. It's announced that the movie's going to be set in an isolated, seeming utopian community. She's coming off of her star turn in Midsommar, so huge deal. Then after that, they've also announced that Shia LaBeouf, Chris Pine, and Olivia Wilde are set to join her as a part of this cast. So
what?
Yes, Shia LaBeouf was originally cast as Harry Styles' role.
Yes.
Oh, no shit.
Yes.
So
he's batshit crazy.
He's got some things
shit.
Are happening with him.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And this is all ignited and Olivia Wilde basically posts her like how jacked she is about it on her Instagram and kind of goes that way.
Yeah.
September 11th, 2020, Harry Styles boards Don't Worry, Darling, and he replaces Shia LaBeouf. So what's that? 6 months later, he's replaced.
It's right before filming.
Yep. Then
did something happen with Shia?
Well, I have a feeling Doug's going to get into it.
According to reports that have come out recently, and I can touch on this in a little bit. According to reports that came out recently, he says that like he was just having a hard time like with the role, and he couldn't give the same energy that it required. Now that's his take on it, of saying
that's
like
enough.
I can't give it, and so there's more context that'll come out later.
We'll take that.
November 2020, Olivia Wilde and Jason Sudeikis break up. They had 2 children. They were engaged for 7 years. November 13th, she said that Olivia Wilde says that she's excited to cast Styles in a leading role because his fashion sense matched the movie's heightened and opulent style. And basically said that her and the costume designer were really excited to work with Harry Styles. Not a real reason to cast a person in a movie.
Right. I was about to say. So basically, you just all right. Yeah. Somebody remember that point so I can come back to it later, please.
And this is all courtesy of Vulture, by the way. They lay out a whole timeline. So go and check out the Vulture article. December 11th, 2020, the New York Times reports that FKA, which I believe is a
FKA Twigs.
FKA Twigs sued Shia LaBeouf for relentless physical, mental, and emotional abuse during their 9-month relationship. There is a sexual battery lawsuit. There's just a whole, basically, she files this suit and alleges that he's a piece of shit, essentially.
Yes, pretty much.
And not a good dude. And so then LaBeouf responds to the lawsuit in multiple emails to the Times, saying that he claims that many of his allegations are false, but concedes that his exes deserve the opportunity to air their statements publicly, and notes that he needs to accept accountability for the things that he's done. He goes, quote, "I have been abusive to myself and everyone around me for years. I have a history of hurting people closest to me. I'm ashamed of that history, and I'm sorry to those that I hurt. There's nothing else I can really say." So there you go. There's that. Back to like the movie. December 12th, Olivia Wilde posts a screenshot of the Times article and says that she respects, and supports FKA Twigs in light of the lawsuit against Don't Worry Darling's former leading man. December 24th, Variety claims that despite previous reports, Shia LaBeouf did not actually leave Don't Worry Darling because of a scheduling conflict. Unnamed sources say that he left, quote, because he exhibited poor behavior and his style clashed with the cast and crew, including Wilde, who ultimately fired him. So there's that.
Okay.
Then Shia starts a inpatient treatment in January of 21. January 4th, per Page 6, 28-year-old Harry Styles and 38-year-old Olivia Wilde are dating. So it comes out in January that they're dating. They're photographed together. According to Us Magazine, Wilde says that he's referring to her as his girlfriend. January 5th,
Wilde says that he's referring to her as his girlfriend.
Yeah.
No, according to Us Weekly, Harry Styles refers to Wilde as his girlfriend. Being, yep. And so
I thought she said that. I was like, what
no. Then on January 5th, and this is where things start to go off the rails for the movie as it relates, and this is why it's important. January 5th, people publishes a report that their relationship is obvious on the set of Don't Worry Darling, saying what started out as a close friendship quickly turned romantic. Quote, "Everyone saw it coming. During breaks, he hasn't been able to stay away and visited her trailer." And quote, "Reportedly, he's seen standing outside of his director and co-star's trailer chatting with her during the shoot." Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
Then we get to fast forward to February. So fast forward a month. In a conversation, Olivia Wilde tells promising young woman director Emerald Fennell that she, quote, has a no assholes policy to keep everybody on set, quote, on the same level. She explains that she was once told to assert her power as a director by having 3 big arguments a day on set. According to Wilde, the advice actually helped her by persuading her to do the exact opposite. So she's starting, which is interesting.
Okay.
Then People reports that Wilde and Harry Styles' work romance is still going strong. They have been spending, quote, all of their time together. And now comes the first report that Florence Pugh is upset with how often the two of them disappeared, and saying like, 3 people who worked on the movie previously call it the budding relationship was, quote, pretty obvious and annoying because Styles and Wilde were nowhere to be found during setups of shots. So essentially they would shoot, Olivia Wilde would say cut, they'd run off, they'd set up the next scene, which, by the way, not a great way to direct a film.
No, that's terrible.
Fucking terrible.
One source say they witnessed a tense conversation about the issue between Olivia Wilde and Florence Pugh, who was particularly, quote, angered by the absences. On the 14th, the movie appears to wrap. Olivia Wilde posts a picture of Florence Pugh hugging her with the quote, "To work with an actor as talented, as brave as Florence Pugh is any director's dream. I will forever be grateful, Flo. It's an honor to be your captain." February 15, she posts another social media shout out praising Harry Styles for being willing to play a supporting role in a female-led film. So it basically says like, hey, thanks for being our male, basically co-star in this female-dominated film. Then on the 13th, September 13th, she drops an 11-second teaser trailer with Florence Pugh making out with her on-screen husband, Harry Styles, and Chris Pine screaming in a white tux. So basically, there's that. Then on December 9th of 21, Olivia Wilde tells Vogue that she's wondered why there isn't any good sex in film anymore. Piece alludes to the scenes that we will unpack in the movie.
It took a left turn.
Ooh, most certainly did.
Still got questions about that roast beef.
Then she also, and then she said she adds that Styles was originally shortlisted for his role because of the pandemic, but his tour conflicted. So now she's starting to say, we never really wanted Shia. We really wanted him, but because of COVID, we couldn't have him.
Why? You don't have to say that.
I don't know, but that's what she said. So now we fast forward to from December 29th of 21 to April 26th of 22. Wilde attends CinemaCon to introduce a new trailer for Don't Worry, Darling. And then it's later revealed that while she's there, she gets handed what she thinks is a script. Turns out it's custody papers from her ex. So that's fun.
Like live on stage.
Live on stage. Yeah, from Sudeikis. The trailer then releases to the public on May 2nd, basically kind of outlining the trailer. On May 2nd, that's when the trial date for FKA Twigs assault case is coming. On the July 21st, a second trailer is released. Then on July 30th, page 6, suggests that Wilde and Styles' relationship started as an affair. Quote, I can tell you for a fact that Flo seeing Olivia and Harry all over each other on set did not go down as well. Olivia was still with Jason when she first hooked up with Harry, saying that this was also kind of an issue for there's that. Then on August 10th, there's court filings. Okay, August 16th, Florence Pugh pushes back against excitement for Don't Worry, Darling being focused on her on-screen intimacy with Styles. Quote, when it's reduced to your sex scenes or to watch the most famous man in the world go down on someone, it's not why we do it, she tells Harper's Bazaar. It's not why I'm in this industry. Obviously, the nature of hiring the most famous pop star in the world, you're going to have conversations like that. That's just not where I'm going to be, what I'm going to be discussing, because this movie is bigger and better than that. And the people who made it are bigger and better than that as well.
I agree.
Wow.
And then
I did not. I missed that interview. Yeah.
Stand 10 toes down. I agree.
Yeah. And so then we kind of go to up here and we kind of go that like here on August 22nd of 2022, Styles makes headlines by addressing the queer baiting accusations he's faced. Basically she doesn't believe toxic next. She doesn't basically there's this whole thing of like he's an issue because of there's some toxic negativity associated with the film. I could really go on. I've gone on for a while. I could go on and on about this. Later. While this is all happening, there is there's also this other screen piece of this where Variety reviewed screenshots from texts from August 2022 where Shia LaBeouf told Olivia Wilde that he will pull out of Don't Worry, Darling. According to the messages, the pair met in person. There's a quote in there that says, thanks for letting me know in on your thoughts on this. Then she goes, I know this isn't fun. Doesn't feel good to say no to someone. And I respect your honesty. I'm honored you were willing to go there with me. For me to tell a story with you, I'm gutted because it could have been something special. Backtracking all the other bullshit associated with the like, we never really wanted him because Harry Styles is so great, but his COVID schedule. Then at the Venice Film Festival, Wilde is asked if she can comment on her alleged tension with Pugh, but she skirts the question, saying just praising her acting. And so there's just a ton of this. Like basically this is a mess. But what leads what leads up to this, and what the big piece of this is here, is that apparently Florence Pugh, and what's the rumor is Florence Pugh was so pissed off about how things happened on this set that she refused to do press for it, like going forward. She was like, I don't want to be involved in it. I'm tired of it. I'm angry at Olivia Wilde. And so there's a couple of questions of like, is she not doing press because of the issue associated with the sex scene discussion? I get pretty tired of asking those answering those same questions too. Followed up with, I'm really not thrilled with the person helming this for not being involved in the process, plus all the drama with Harry and Shia. So it's just, this is a hot fucking mess. Any input from you all on the dumpster fire that this is?
This was a distraction to the damn movie. All right.
Yep.
Let me start by saying this. All right. I'm gonna just give myself some type of like apologies. All right. Anything I'm about to say about this movie is not about the social commentary that this movie is about.
Correct.
Okay. My comments revolve more around the mess around this movie, and it has nothing to do. I appreciate and love that it is a majority female-led cast. I support that 1000%. I love the message in the movie as well. I didn't know anything about this movie going into it except the mess.
Yep.
And I said this in the chat the other day that I really feel like that mess led into it's really interfering with what this movie could be. So that's all I really want to say right now.
There's a lot of people who, I mean, when we were at the theater last night, we took a poll of both the lobby and we took a poll
and after.
Did you really?
Yeah, we did.
We did.
And so what we found is that there were a lot of people who were like, we're here for Florence Pugh. She's perfect. Makes sense.
Well,
She's outstanding.
Harry Styles.
There's people who are there for Harry Styles. There were a handful of folks that were like, we're kind of curious as to what this is because of what a mess the off-camera stuff has been to see if it impacted the movie at all. To say whether or not it did or didn't is hard. I mean, I think that they did have a quality product based off the person, and we'll get into the movie here in a second. But there were a lot of people who showed up for it. I do think, though, that Florence discomfort with talking through Florence, like we're friends, but due to the discomfort, Flo and I, but due to the discomfort that she had talking about like the romance scenes, I get that and feel that. There were several people who said they thought this movie was a romance. They thought it was a love movie. Yeah, there were a lot of people who felt like they were genuinely surprised by the end of it because they came in knowing nothing, and then the other side of it. So
because
they were in for a shock.
I think if we are movie lovers, right? And so when you see Harry Styles and Florence Pugh, and you see this looks like it looks like not a Hallmark movie kind of love, but it looks like a love story a little bit. You know what I mean? And the tone that it's shot in does not scream thriller. I guess if that's kind of the word I've been using. If you had told
when I did not know that this was intended to be a thriller at first. The trailer was, I thought it was going to be more of like a drama, like angsty
murder mystery.
I thought it was a movie mystery. I thought it was also potentially like one of those moments where, you know, those like romance movies where they're united by a tragedy. Like I thought that could have been it. Like I think that there were some moments where I didn't quite pick up on it. And maybe that's my
grandpa's gonna be okay.
Right. Yeah.
Man, that is not what I got from the preview I saw at all.
But now we're
No, and I think that was the second part is because we are movie lovers. When we watch a trailer, after watching the movie, I went back to go watch a trailer, and that makes sense. It's almost like, duh, Marcus, like you're supposed to know that. But I'm gonna tell y'all just from the jump, if I can, I had no interest in watching this movie. I'm just gonna like let you know. I had
as you should
interest in watching this, and it had nothing to. I will make jokes that it was a white like that has nothing to do with it. I was gonna make a whole lot of jokes about it being the cast is very white and a whole bunch of other stuff.
There's some stuff we have to talk about with that as well.
And there is stuff in there that I want to address
Sure.
And I feel like there's a lot of things in there that there's reasons why it was like that. So I'll wait my turn when we get there.
For
right?
sure.
But I was gonna make joke. That's not what this is about. When I watched the trailer, I just didn't put 2 and 2 together, but I had zero interest in it. Me and Doug made a TikTok and we did 1 word before and 2 words after. And the first word I used was apathetic about this movie.
And
I didn't care about
uninterested.
anything.
Again, take in my baggage with it when I walked in of like, okay, it's Harry Styles. I don't really give a shit about most of the things he does.
Yes, he's sexy. He's a talented guy. He looks good
I am
in a suit,
I am a man who's comfortable with my sexuality,
Of
and that is
course.
a very good looking man.
He's a
like
very,
he is a
Chris Pine is
handsome
good looking.
man.
Everybody in this damn movie
He's no
is
Chris
beautiful.
Pine.
Even Nick Kroll, who arguably is like the redheaded stepchild of the attractive husbands, still looks fucking sexy as hell.
Yeah, he looks good in this.
A great job.
Which I was really surprised about because usually the goofy guy cannot. I don't know. That's just it's a line.
Nick Kroll had maybe 6 lines in this film, and you can tell he's having the time of his flipping life.
He was just fucking happy to be there.
You
but
know?
Gentlemen, we are starting to get into this movie, so I want us to just formally start this process of the review of saying, first off, spoiler alert. We are going to talk about the movie. Everything up until this point has been drama associated, but we're going to talk about the movie. So if you haven't seen it, hit a pause, come back and visit us again after you see it. Also, I want Marcus to give us his barbershop summary. Fucking Don't Worry, Darling. So strap in for the joyride of the night. Here we go.
Okay, here we go. All right. So don't because I told y'all I was on some bullshit tonight. Okay, here we go. Don't worry, darling. I'm gonna set the scene for you. Post-apocalyptic world.
Okay.
Stepford Wives.
50s, 60s vibe.
50s, 60s, make America great again. It's very it feels so okay. In all seriousness, there's this movie, right? And there's this couple, and you start off in this beautiful La La Land type of deal, right?
Okay.
And everything's clean, everything's kind of, I don't know, is it 70s? What is the vibe of that?
I would say it's a 60. I would say it's a early 60s vibe.
Early 60s.
I mean, 50s maybe.
It did shift a little bit after Florence, after the lead actress went through like this reboot because they kind of changed the car and they kind of went more towards the 70s. It seemed like a little bit, but start you off in a nice clean 60s look. You have Harry Styles, you have Florence Pugh. They are a married couple. I'm forgetting their names. I'll be honest with y'all. Could somebody
I got you. Her character's name is Alice. His character's name is Jack.
Alice and Jack. Thank you. So Alice and Jack live together and they are very much in love. Okay. So they are like all over each other the entire like beginning of this movie. And there's something going on, but you don't really know, but everything seems perfect. All right. They live in a cul-de-sac and all the houses are beautiful. All the wives are beautiful, beautiful dresses, beautiful husbands in suits. And they have this routine of they'll do dinner or maybe skip dinner for a little taco or whatever the case may be. All right. So he eats the box on top of the table and then he's so happy about it, and then he leaves, and every day all the husbands leave, right? And there's this one place that everybody cannot go to, that the husbands drive into the deserts in their old school Cadillacs and all this other stuff, right? So they go to this place, and the one rule is the wives cannot go there, and there's like discretion, and everything is like you support the husbands in their job because they are doing something progressive materials, creating or discovering progressive materials, I think sounds
vaguely correct. Yep.
So they go through this whole process, right? And so every day the husband comes home, they're welcome with Jack and Alice. In Jack and Alice's home, he's welcome home with a drink and dinner made and everything. The house is clean and everything's ready. And she's like, "Oh, thank you so much, babe." Blah 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 blah. They can't really talk about what they do at work. They don't even know what their roles are. Anyway, moving forward, the wives all have this discussion. There is one person, I believe her name is Margaret. Margaret is basically, they're calling her insane. They're saying Margaret done lost her damn mind because Margaret went into the desert and she had a child, and Margaret lost her child in the desert, and they said that they took the rumor is they took the child from her because she didn't do what was right. and
Correct.
she did something she wasn't supposed to do, basically. And she's clenching onto this red plane, and she keeps saying, like, hey, we're not supposed to be here. We're not supposed to be here. We're not supposed to be here. There's this big function, fast forward in a little bit, at this guy named Frank's house. Okay, Frank is the lead guy, played by Chris Pine. And everybody, all the men love Frank. They defend his ass. Like, what's his name? Chris Kroll.
Nick Kroll.
Nick Kroll. I'm sorry. Nick Kroll defends Frank and said he's the best thing ever, whatever the fuck, you know, like, you don't speak to him like that. They defend him to a T. And they all go to this party at Frank's house, and Frank's is giving this big speech about sticking together and solidarity and secrecy and are you loyal and all this other crap like that. And Margaret has this, she speaks out and has this outburst, and then they try to silence her and all this other stuff. So fast forward a little bit more. Florence Pugh starts having these flashbacks, like her mind is seeing these images. Yeah, she's having these visions. She's hallucinating. Eggs ain't got no yolk in it, being squished in between the glasses. A whole bunch of shit going
eggs on the face of the planet.
And so they go through this entire process. She's feel like she's losing her mind. Florence Pugh, eventually riding a trolley, sees this red plane crash. Okay, so she sees this red plane crash, and she walks out into the desert because the trolley man won't take her there. And she says, "Are we not gonna save him? We gotta go help the person I just saw a plane crash." So she goes all the way to the desert, finds this little central location, this little house thing in the center of the desert, headquarters, I guess.
Dome.
And she touches it, and when she touches it, something happens where she, I guess, snaps out of what is later to be found as a hallucination, or the what's another word for virtual reality?
Yeah, like the trance state that she's been put in.
Yeah,
yes.
She's pulled out of the simulation.
She's pulled out of the simulation. So she goes the rest of the movie having these weird, like, flashbacks. She meets Margaret. Margaret is telling her, we're not supposed to be here. You know something's different with you. Margaret then kills herself, right? Slits her throat in the thing. And then
allegedly.
Florence Pugh was like, I saw her die. She slit her throat, then fell off the thing. They pulled her away. They said, that shit didn't happen. You need to take these medicines. Her husband gets promoted. And then for some reason, Chris Brown makes him dance like a damn puppet.
Oh, I have commentary on that. Yeah.
That shit was wild as shit. He was like, don't you want to see the boy dance? And and they're going off.
Creepy
She's like,
as hell.
I want to leave. She says, I want to go home. She wants to get out. She realized something wrong. Lo and behold, because it's very long. I'm not even trying to exaggerate this. Long story, less long. It turns out that Alice's husband, Jack, they are in a simulation, like a literal simulation. He has her in a trance in their bedroom in their house. When they leave, the husbands leave to actually go to work in the real world to pay for this experience in this life. And then they come back after work, quote unquote, is done. And then they're back with their wives. So he puts him, forcibly put his wife in a trance. And then he's also in this trance. And I think he's kind of in a cult. Frank runs this cult, so to speak, right? And this whole thing is a simulation. Florence Pugh realizes that, breaks out of the simulation, and the whole thing just goes left. Chris Pine ends up getting stabbed. She ends up killing the doctor. Jackie Boy is part of this whole thing because he's not even British. This motherfucker's English and rugged. Lost his job, doesn't really do anything in the real world. So everything he wanted in the real world, he got in this imaginary world where he's like got his wife hooked up to an IV and some more shit. That's really the short version of this plot.
That's perfect.
As short as I can get it.
That's an incredible summary too. Like that's very well done, because you're pretty spot on. I want to cover box office. So quickly, this movie made $19.2 million this weekend at 4,173 theaters, according to Variety. So they expected that it would be, they were like, we hope that this movie should be around 20 million, 22 million. So they did a great job with this. Cast. Florence Pugh plays Alice. Harry Styles plays Jack. Chris Pine plays Frank. Olivia Wilde plays Bunny. Kiki Lane plays Margaret. Gemma Chan plays Shelley. And then Nick Kroll plays Dean. And then we get into some of the other folks. Timothy Simmons from Veep plays Dr. Collins. And then from there, you're going to kind of get into, I want to say no-name folks, but you're going to get into some lesser than common household folks. Gentlemen, what did you all like about this movie? Brian.
I think the storyline is there.
Marcus.
Go ahead, Marcus.
I think, did you say Brian? Sorry.
Yeah, I said Brian, but you're good.
No, I did just talk for 10 minutes. But
no, you're good.
I think that the storyline is good. I feel like it tells it has a good story to be told. And that's kind of where I want my foundation to start, because I didn't have a problem with. Now it is very similar to another movie, but the storyline is, I think the storyline is solid. So I will stop there.
Yeah,
100%. Brian.
I mean, I liked a lot of this. I really liked Florence Pugh. I don't really think that can be overstated. I think we're all going to say the same thing there, but I mean, she's a force. Like, she carries this movie. She carries it on her back effortlessly. By the way, like, she never struggles, never buckles. She knows exactly what is needed of the character, and she is laser focused on getting there. Like,
100%.
I can't talk well enough about Florence Pugh in this role. It honestly, what it feels like is somebody at WB saw Midsummer and they were like, just get her in something, sign her for anything, like literally sign her for the next project we have open. And like, that's how that all came about.
Studios like doing things like putting Florence Pugh in situations where horrifying things happen.
Yes.
And that's because she does such a great job of like convincing you that you need to be scared, like that something's not okay. And the sense of like, her ability to act panicked is second to none, because the moments where she feels emotionally like both sad but also panicked but also disturbed, like all of that comes through so strong. So I mean, I want to boost that 100%.
Like, it's this nuance to anxiousness. Like, you think like we've all felt anxiety, but like Florence Pugh like knows how to get to like a specific shade and number of anxiety and immediately put it on screen for you to connect with as a viewer, and that's really hard. As someone that did acting and then stopped, because I'm like, this is hard. Like, that's incredibly difficult to do, and it shines through in this.
100%.
I think the concept is really good. What's really funny is when I started the movie, I was like, you know what would be really wild is like, you know, what if this whole movie takes place in present day? That'd be wild. That's not going to happen. And then literally 3/4 through the movie, it's like, so anyway, it's present day. I like that. I really like that. I think it helps with the social commentary. I know for some folks, like, you're in or you're out at that point.
That's true. That's
true. But I think it works for me on a lot of levels, and I really like how the last thing I'll focus on here is I really liked how Chris Pine like showcased how he was like, I'm the bad guy, but I'm not going to overdo it, even though he totally could have and got away with it. His performance was very much this very believable, like, charismatic guy who believes in what he's doing. But no, he's bad news bears. Like, that guy is bad, awful, like
100%.
grade F. So I'm just going to start there as the things that I liked.
Yeah. I think in addition to both of those things, I think I want to boost Marcus's comment too, to say that concept is a lot of this. Like, if you if you're not going to grasp the concept, this movie is going to be a struggle for you. And so I really appreciated the risk they took with that particular concept, because it's hard to do. And it's not like it eases you into this. It dumps you into 1958 with all of the tropes and feelings that they did with a set piece, because that's one of the things I really liked. I was convinced that this was a period piece. Like, for up until the twist halfway through, I'm convinced that this is a period piece.
Absolutely.
There are moments where my skeptic contrarian brain made me look at things, and I was critical of the movie, but now looking back on it post twist, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like, it sounds really stupid. The wallpaper in their bathroom, it was like giraffe patterned, but there was like gold behind these black blotches. And I looked at that and I said, no motherfucker in the 50s or 60s would have that as a wallpaper. It would be pastel and disgusting. And so, not to be overtly critical,
I missed all of that.
I noticed it, and then I kept saying, like, there's no way anybody has this. And so I was actually like, they didn't do their homework. Like, they didn't do their homework at all. Like, and like mad about it. And then turn around to find out, oh no, this is it's supposed to look fancy and opulent and rich. And because it was created to look that way. And
Yeah.
so it's both a set piece, but it's not. But like I said, they did a really good job of dressing everything the way in which it needed to be, because I believed that it was. And so I thought that was great.
Can I chime in right here?
Please.
Definitely.
Can I tell y'all a secret?
Yes.
I think I might know it, but okay.
Do you?
Maybe.
We're going to find out.
Here's my secret. If there is a time... and this is no offense to anybody born in this time period, but if there's a time period that I hate, it's the 60s and the 70s.
Yeah.
If there's timepieces that I absolutely can, when people ask me, Marcus, if you could be born in a certain time period, what would it be? My first response is I'm black. My second response is
all of them are not great. Like
all of them are not the best options, right?
Yeah.
But my second response is it would never be the 60s, 70s. It would never be the 60s or the 70s. There's something I just don't care for about the style of it, the feel of it. I don't know what that is. I just have no. Whenever a movie is a timepiece based in that or a TV show, I'm lost. Me personally, I'm disconnected from it.
Marcus,
I just don't like it.
I said something flippantly that invoked a reaction from you in this movie, where I said about one of the African American like side characters, one of the wives on the bus. She's the black lady, and I said out loud, I went, "Oh, she's not at the back of the bus,"
and that's
like. And that's because at the time period, she fucking would have been like.
So why would you pick this one? I guess that was my. And so I guess this maybe leads. This is my theory, right? It seemed to be a cult, and it was a man's cult, right?
I mean,
and the social commentary is men controlling women. That's what I got from it, right? Saying what to do with their bodies, what to do with them. You know, you expect to have sex when you want to. You expect dinner to be made. And that's going back to this certain lifestyle where the man is all man, all this.
It's very make America. It's very make America great again.
Oh,
that was the vibe.
Not a political podcast, but. Yeah,
that seriously was the vibe that I got. Was this seems more like the people who fall in line with this. Like if Make America Great Again was a time period, this would be.
I mean, I think we just need to call a duck here. I mean, like this Chris Pine's character is totally like a mashup of like your Joe Rogans, of your Andrew Tates, of your I'm running out. I don't know many people in this
Matt
space,
Gates.
but like
no, you were doing right.
But like these folks that pine for a time when they say things were simpler for who? White men. And you look at something like Don't Worry, Darling, and it is this fever dream for somebody who is just a men's rights activist, which we already know is like a joke. But like, what if they did have this power to create this virtual reality, like a Fortnite virtual reality, where it's like, hey, we can go back to that time. We just got to shove everybody in a VR thing and you can have this life again. You can walk in through the door and Florence Pugh will clean your house and have a bourbon waiting for you. Like, and to those types of people, those regressive and bigoted and sexist people, that is utopia to them. This victory project is literally their utopia, and they don't see a problem with it. And Chris Pine's whole speech is talking about like, no, you actually want to be controlled. Like that's actually what you want, which I would ask a woman. I don't think that's true.
Because he called it organized chaos. And then the scene when Jack gets the promotion, they're screaming, whose world is this? And all the men are screaming. Well, the men are screaming our world and the women are repeating it.
Sure.
Yeah.
That was something that stood out to me. I don't know.
And I can't find like an image right now of the symbol for the Victory Project, which is what it's called, by the way.
Yeah.
But this is Joe Rogan's symbol, and you can see like the parallel almost immediately. Like it is a series of concentric circles with an eye in the middle. It is designed to look like something. They looked at that and they said like, well, we can't make it outright the same, but what could we do to draw similar elements? And they did a good
Now,
job of drawing
like,
from it. And I don't mean to be accusatory to his podcast. Like, do
well,
whatever you want, but
yeah.
they were drawing inspiration from that for sure.
I mean, again, I know we're on Spotify, and I know y'all love your Joe Rogan, and I don't listen to his podcast. I only know what people talk about his podcast and what those people believe. So, like, I am going to make that disclaimer, but
sure,
I think
100%.
it's what it is. It's representative of these people that look at this world and like, man, I wish we could go back. And it's like, no, and the only like. And like, no, that was bad because like literally women did not have a choice of what they could do. They didn't have careers. They didn't have choices. They didn't have input. I mean, there's a lot here to say.
Right.
So I'll stop there for the moment so we can talk about some of the other stuff. But I do absolutely believe there are people non-ironically. And I thought about this watching the movie and I was like, oh man, no, like this is like utopia. Like this is legit. Somebody's watching this being like, why isn't it like that today? And it's like, you know.
And Brian, remember, Jack says several times, Harry Styles says several times, like, I'm trying to give you our best life. Like, I'm trying to give you perfection. Like, you work all the time, you're stressed out, we don't connect anymore. I'm trying to give you this version of our best life.
Yeah.
But his
version of the best life.
And it's his version of the best life. Because her reply was, I was happy. She was a surgeon. She was a full-on goddamn doctor. Surgeon. She was a full-on doctor that was saying, I like what I do while he was at home not working, complaining as soon as she got in the door. I'm hungry.
Oh my gosh.
So it was like, well, what the fuck? What do you want me to do? I've been stitching people up all goddamn day. And you were just sitting here looking rough as hell, which shout out to Harry Styles and the costume designers because they wanted to make sure you saw the significant switch between his handsome ass and whoever that man was that was in them flashbacks, because those were two completely different people.
And I can't stress enough. I get to go back to the piece before we started talking the movie. Like, we cannot, and I'm guilty of this, so I will put my hand up and say, you did it wrong. Like, I'll point it at myself.
Guilty of what?
I reduced this movie to like fucking Harry Styles. Like, I reduced it to like pretty boy dude on screen. They cast him because he's a big name. They didn't really want to do much with it. And then I get in the movie and I'm like, well, shame on me, because of that moment, of that reveal of his present self, of his non-simulation self. That was like, we don't give a fuck if he looks pretty now. Like, he needs to convey a message about what's going on.
Yes.
It did an outstanding job with that. So I do think that there's some commentary. I do think there's something to be said of like, we as a society cannot reduce it to we can't reduce it down to Harry Styles as like the same thing that Florence Pugh is upset about. You're talking about him as a pop star going down on her. You're talking about him as a sex signal. We can't reduce the movie to that. And I'm definitely kind of did. So
if we could take a moment here, the one thing that's been bizarre to me about some of Olivia Wilde's marketing stuff, and I don't know if she's directly responsible for it. I don't know if it's her team. I don't know if it's WB. I don't know who it is. What I do know is that Olivia Wilde like made a lot of statements about female empowerment and the way sex was used in this movie, which is great. I read those interviews and I'm supportive of that. And the one thing that's weird to me, though, is that they're highlighting like female pleasure in this movie, which, okay. However, it is in the context and frame of Florence Pugh's character literally trapped. Like, she's literally trapped in this simulation, but you're saying like, well, no men will be satisfied sexually in this movie. And it's like, it's literally a power fantasy.
Did they say that?
I have to find the interview. But
she came out recently and she said, this is a movie where women get put first in terms of their like sexual needs and desires and satisfaction. And that is a intention versus impact moment. Marcus, yes, sir, you have a hand in the back.
Yes.
Me personally, I don't know who's watching this, but cover the ears of the children. I will gladly be sexually satisfied if I just ate the box and left. I am a munch. So like you can just, I will eat and leave, and I will also be satisfied. So I'm a little disconnected. Like I feel like I'm satisfied when my lady's satisfied.
Now,
Like,
Marcus, your mom
like,
called and asked you about this, and I really want to make sure that we don't lose sight of. So if that's what it is, remember what your mom said.
Okay,
So
what a weird way to think about my mom. What a weird moment, but
glad
yeah.
we could bring that first. But you're right. I mean, that's the other thing is like, okay, I get the point you're making.
Brian's
that,
no, I'm absolutely
You're
more
fine.
so. I'm absolutely agreeing with Brian's point though, right? Because if that's said, it feels weird to put that within this movie. I guess
it's very weird.
is what I'm saying.
I just, it's very hard for me to disconnect it from like literally a world where all the men are in control. Like that's just really, it's very difficult for me to get past. I'm very supportive of feminist filmmaking. I'm very supportive of what Olivia Wilde is saying. I just, within the context of the movie, it's just kind of like, okay. Like, okay. It feels like we're focusing on something very small in the context of something very large.
Yes. Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, it just I don't know. It's hard for me to reconcile, and I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm not like, maybe we as an majority male podcast, all male podcast, is not like the podcast to be discussing this movie. So if you're looking for,
or this portion of this movie anyway,
or at least this portion of it, I will fully admit that. Yeah,
perfectly fine with that. I can only give you an example through the eyes of Marcus, honestly, at the end of the day. And for me, I enjoyed the scenes because it did feel like something different, and also I mean, it was hot. It was smoking hot to push the roast beef.
I mean, they were done well and tastefully. Like, you can't say. I mean, like, again, it's a female-led cast. Like, you don't see that a lot.
No,
and the people in our theater seem to like it a lot. So
they most certainly did. I was very concerned about the mess and whether or not they were going to eat dinner later. But hey, that's just me and where I was at.
The mess with the roast beef.
Yeah, the mess. Well, that mess too. I do want to ask, please, Brian, just look at me when I say these things.
You want me to look you in the eye as you just say this?
What a wild podcast to go live on Facebook for, huh?
Yeah, we really we did it. We either made some new fans or burned some bridges.
Or lost a lot. Yeah.
I do want to touch on this just for a minute.
Yeah.
I think that I do want to get to this section of things that kind of bugged me, and I want to talk about two things. One, the length, and two, cutting choices. Like,
yes,
because there's a big portion of me of wondering, like, so about the first two acts are all it's a simulation. So 2/3 of this movie feels like it's all set piece with something spooky going on. Like, right? Like,
yes.
And it feels like really, really, I feel like some of that stuff that was like jam-packed at the end.
Oh boy.
I feel like you could have put some more like, you could have, to use like you could put some more bait out there for me to follow those breadcrumbs just a little bit. Because it feels like you were like, hey, it's a really cool, sexy set piece, right? Look at all the sexy people. Weird. There's no money. Weird. There's an airplane. What the fuck happened with that? And then it's like, it's a simulation. He's a piece of shit. She killed him by accident and she escapes. Well, go home, everybody. That's great. Hope you all had fun. Like,
that all happens in like 10 minutes.
It does have 20 minutes. And that's why the end title card where it says, "Don't worry, darling," has people going like, what the fuck just happened?
I like that. But yeah, let's get into it.
That cutscene, that end scene is fine because there is no open-minded like Dark Knight Returns ending where did Batman live over the water or did he die over the water? We'll never know.
Alice Returns.
That one was like she just woke up and was like, and like, okay, we know she woke up in the bed. My question was, what does that look? I wish I would have seen what that looked like when she woke up.
Sure,
because it was a lot of setup to get her in the simulation and not enough set up to say you just woke up to a dead body. They said the people are on the way to come get you and kill you in real life. And where is the red plane? Like, what happens when the world was shaking? What is that? What like none of those questions got answered.
Right. And then on top of that, I feel like there were some moments where you could have done like a Ready Player One scenario, like where you could have had stuff outside of the simulation happening. Like, there were moments with this where I was like, why did we spend so much time in that desert exploring the set piece, I mean, you established their dynamic almost within the first 25 minutes of this movie. We didn't need to tease it out and establish their loving relationship so long. You could have said, yep, they get along, but look, here's this spooky guy like Chris Pine, what's he's up to? And then it's just, I would
have wanted more Chris Pine.
I would have been absolutely fine with more Chris
Pine. So there's two things here I need to bring up. So Kiki Lane, Kiki Lane posted on Instagram that a majority of the things that she shot, and she plays Margaret in the film, were cut. So Margaret was the character that killed herself, that lost her child. And so I feel like there's probably a 3-hour cut of this movie, which nobody's probably interested in. But I think Kiki Lane and Margaret as a character, I think that's probably, Doug, the stuff that you're looking for. Yeah. If I had to bet money, I bet it is in all those scenes that Kiki Lane had cut, or at least you're getting more context or more clues. And I feel like you could have added more Kiki Lane. You could have taken out a little bit of Harry Styles.
Yeah.
And you maybe could have found like a happy medium
somewhere. Yeah.
I think that's maybe the calculation I would have made, because Kiki Lane has the red plane. She has a red plane. And then we see the red plane, quote unquote, crash, by the way. We never see an explosion.
No.
And for me, once I learned it was a simulation, I immediately, for everything that was happening, I'm like, oh, like this is glitchy. Like this isn't a stable build of their internet VR. So like the red plane was like leftover coding for something, or the earthquakes are like, we don't have enough bandwidth. And like when you play a video game,
very much free guy components in there as well.
Yes. Yeah. Like, and if you play multiplayer video games, sometimes your dude's floating, sometimes he's like in a wall or whatever. Like, and that's kind of, to me, that was an equivalent. I don't know if other people felt that way, but that's how I reconciled that.
Brian,
as soon as I found out it was
that's a great way to think about it.
Really smart. I never thought about the technological part, but I feel like that's because they didn't give me enough of that portion.
I mean,
because they also never explain why the men die in the world, but the women.
And I also had this moment of like this. I thought for a long time the route that this thriller was going to go was it was going to be more M. Night Shyamalan's The Village, where certain women were like chosen, like they were being absorbed, they were being observed, and they noticed that they were starting to ask questions or not acting a certain way, so they were slowly going to like off them or remove them, or like I very much expected that. I thought that when she was being electroshocked in that doctor's office, I thought that was like she was going to wake up the wife of somebody else besides Harry Styles.
Oh, fascinating.
There were moments that too where I did not expect it to go the way that it did. Happy that it did. Very happy with the payoff and the way that it went. Just not what I expected. And I think it's because at that point in time, everything still feels so much up in the air. Like we know that there's this relationship between Jack and Florence, and we know that Chris Pine is someone maybe not to be fully trusted.
Right.
But it's just everything else is so, and the doctor's creepy as fuck. So like, we know that all of those things are true. So what do we do now? Like where are we going to go?
Well, they try to throw you off a little bit, because I'm thinking about that scene with oh my God, I'm about to say Jack Harlow, Harry Styles in the mirror. Movie. Very different. And he's like, I don't know why I picked this tie, as if he was in some type of trance. And then I'm thinking, okay, so maybe Frank has control of all of it and he can control what the men do. Because then he makes Jack dance uncontrollably at the celebration.
Look, he got a new Fortnite emote. He wanted to try it out, okay?
Or unless the point is that like Jack wasn't a good dancer outside of the simulation, so he programmed himself to be a good dancer inside the simulation. But at that point in time, you don't know, so it just like looks like, oh, so he's a wizard. Like he can just.
I just assumed that was. I assumed that was Frank, maintaining dominance. You know what I mean? Like that was asserting his role in all of this. Of you want to see him dance? What will you do for loyalty?
Yes.
Like thank you for being loyal. Like you are going to dance on this stage in front of people. And there was there was a lot of people in the room, which means that cul-de-sac was only a small portion of how many people were really a part of that whole process.
And hold on. And the other thing about this that bothers me about, sorry, because I'm going to backtrack like
do
steps.
it.
No,
the whole thing about Olivia Wilde being that this is like a female, like sexual fantasy, like empowerment movie. Chris Pine watches these two people have sex in his own fucking house. I'm pretty sure she didn't consent to that there, lady. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
I'll be completely honest with you. In my dream world where we're able to talk to these folks on the press junket, and in the dream world where Florence Pugh actually did the press junket for this, I would have loved to ask the question of like, how are you reading that scene? Because like, I'll be honest, that sequence really challenged me. Like, not only is it uncomfortable, right? You're like, someone's watching you, and you've already talked about how you're uncomfortable if someone's gonna find you, and then it's like Chris Pine doesn't say anything about it, so then it feels like there's weird. My read on it was like, this is like a control thing, but like, is Alice into this? No, I don't know, but like Jack doesn't know about it. The whole thing made me incredibly uncomfortable because like you couldn't suss that out. Now I'm sure we could talk about the themes there, but I had no idea how to read that scene.
Yeah, that's weird. That was just a weird moment.
I get where the female pleasure is coming from, because I did wonder, weird thought, but it's my thought process, why there as many as this couple sex scenes as there was never any scenes with actual penetration. So I get what she's saying about no male pleasure, because Harry in the movie, he fingers her in the house, in Frank's house, right?
Sure.
And then he eats her out at their house, both which would please women over men more so. So I get where she's coming from. I'm just a little. I also agree with the whole Chris Pine thing, like the watching of them in the bedroom and then bringing it back up later.
Yeah, I didn't.
It's a lot of characters that I don't think you can give full development and background to. And I feel like Frank should have been one of those characters that got a little bit more background.
Right. I'm so glad you brought that up. I'm so glad you brought that up, Marcus, because I do think that one of this movie's weaknesses is it's almost like this is a great, like I said before, this is a great concept. It just feels like there's too many players. Like, did we need the pregnant woman who was always drinking? Probably not. Also, what the fuck was that about? Like, this woman was pregnant and never not had a cocktail in her hand.
I tied that to the simulation, though.
Yeah, because they make a comment. She's like, yeah, she's always pregnant. Like, she never has the baby.
Shit. Okay.
Yeah. She says that when Alice comes back from the shock therapy.
Yeah.
Like a red plane over my head entirely.
Wow.
I mean, I think here's the thing. Florence Pugh is absolutely driving this car of the movie. And no I think she does. I mean, and it's just her handling some of these anxiety or thriller scenes, especially when she's out in the desert. And so the movie, right, it takes a turn about halfway through when she's like, something's wrong. And she's starting to interact with people, telling them something's wrong. And I felt like the most satisfying of those interactions was when Chris Pine was like, yeah, like, I got you. You kind of seem like a threat, but you seem like a good challenge. Like, sure, why not? Let's go. And at that point, I was like, oh my gosh, this movie is Florence Pugh versus Chris Pine. I'm even more jacked about it. Like, that's a showdown that I want to see, because I assumed it would be Jack. Like, I assumed Jack would be the main antagonist or whatever. Come to find out, Harry Styles is just like trying to play video games. I mean, whatever. And I just feel like this movie needed Chris Pine and Florence Pugh one more time like that. I don't know how to phrase this the right way, but Chris Pine needed to give a platform to Florence Pugh's character for her to really just like drive this home, because I feel like there is something more for everything Florence Pugh did in this movie. There's something in me that makes it feel like there's this 5 to 6 minute maybe monologue or something between those two, or a sequence between those two, where Florence Pugh just kind of like nails the end of this film, or like at least those two have some pretty snippy dialogue that gets at some of those themes. But basically, they have this dinner party. Alice shoots her shot, for lack of a better term, of trying to take down Chris Pine's character, and she can't. You know, the house always wins when it's a VR simulation.
Yep, that's a great way to put it. Yeah, but it's an excellent point, Brian. So yeah, that's there are some, just, this movie is good overall and it's enjoyable overall. It's just there's some moments where there are things where I'm like, why that? Like, I also, one thing that I kind of, all right, I'm done. The fucking moaning music. I couldn't. Like, I just, there was a moment where I was like, I'm tired of this. If you're gonna do a soundtrack, do a fucking musical interlude, or don't. But the huffing and the was kind of a cool thought, but it kept coming back. And there was one moment where I said out loud in the theater, "Hey, DJ, let the beat drop." Like, I was just ready for something to fucking happen here. Like, I was over it.
Was this after she kills Jack?
Brian, I was over that huffing like soundtrack like halfway through the movie.
Oh, I mean, to me, thematically, I was like, oh, like, because you can't breathe, like you're having a hard time. Like, you're constricted.
Well, fuck me, Brian, when you put it like that.
I mean, that's how I interpreted it, especially when she wraps her head in saran wrap, which was, by the way, absolutely terrifying. Like, that was incredibly
I didn't see that coming.
To see Florence Pugh just like look like she was gonna choke herself to death on saran wrap in a beautiful like kitchen. The imagery there was absolutely astonishingly creepy.
Yeah, very much so. And that's when you put it that way, like, oh, you can't breathe, or maybe because she was in a simulation, that's what the only thing she could hear was herself breathing. That makes entirely more sense.
That's just my interpretation.
There are moments of this where I think some things just didn't land for me, and maybe that was just one of them, where I kind of was like, what is happening?
I mean, look, I feel like we've praised Pugh. She nails it. I think it's time to talk about how I don't know how they came about this in the writer's room, but they legit said with their whole chest, it's the Matrix. It's Matrix rules. Enjoy the rest of the movie. Right. And I don't know how to feel about that.
That's okay. All right. All right. I mean, that's a very good point. They were like, oh, Jesus. Yeah, that's a really good point.
I'm glad you made that point. There was a lot here. I also want to say this as we kind of, I don't know, not wrap up, but whatever we're doing. There are going to be pieces that I missed in this movie because I feel like the messaging, some of it was for me, and then some of it was not.
Sure.
And it's one of those movies that I was telling my mom, I was like, I would wait for you to go see this once it comes out on streaming.
Yes.
So you could really dissect it in a more, like, it's not like Tenet, but it's kind of like Tenet when there's so many. I'll tell you what it's really like. I'm gonna just say this, okay? Yeah. And it's halfway a joke and it's halfway not a joke. Yeah. This movie reminds me of Get Out. Okay.
Yes.
And this feels like
is.
This movie is. It feels like, and there's TikToks about it, so I'm not the only one. Not to use TikTok as my validating scale or whatever, but there are a lot of people that said this feels like Get Out for women, more specifically white women, based off the cast.
I completely agree with that.
I also agree with that and said it yesterday as well.
We did say, and honestly, if you look at it, it's the same premise except for without the virtual reality. It's breaking free from something, the social commentary, the control, the view of how you are supposed to be. It's very eerie how parallel these movies are. Yeah. And I don't know how you get away with that besides it being a white film. I don't know. And I hate to constantly be the person that's like, no, black this, white that, black this, white that. But I have a question in the back of my head of how do you get away with that?
I mean, I want to validate you. Like, for people that may not know, I'm a white man, and I completely validate everything that Marcus is talking about. Like, there are absolutely similar concepts at play, and I will not be surprised if a YouTube essay comes out in like a month or two.
There's gonna be one
comparing like 10 points of it. Like, yeah, the virtual reality aspect, I would say, is the defining feature between the two, in my opinion. However, the similarities are not lost on me. And I feel like, and this kind of goes into my whole review of the film, but I do feel like this film, I'm trying to find the best way to say this. I feel like it gets up to the plate to really say something, and it does say something. It does talk about women empowerment, how men are acting today, and how that is toxic and bad, and how women equality, in some ways, people still feel like this. However, I feel like there was a way to make this go into the stratosphere, like really say it with their whole chest, and it just feels like they
backed off the plate. They had a chance to hit a
little
home run.
bit.
Yep, they had they settled for a triple, which is still good.
Yeah.
But they had an opportunity to score like a winning run, and instead they came up there and they got a hit, which is fantastic, but they didn't drive it home.
And
Brian,
like,
what would have you done differently?
I was about to ask the same question.
What would you do differently that you think would have said it with their whole chest? Which I love that phrase, by the way.
I am going to talk
spot.
about that. I do want to just really quick though, Marcus. I do feel like with Get Out though, Jordan Peele has a gift. He has a gift to so efficiently capture these experiences and communicate them that it's almost like no one was ever going to touch that. And so with this story and relating it back here, like I feel like if we're looking at these themes, if we're looking at how you resolve it, and Alice's story, I guess for me, the third act completely relies on you understanding the rules of virtual reality, and if you die in VR, then you die in the real world
in 10 minutes at that.
Yeah, and like the people know where you live, and the red jumpsuits are probably robots or like AI probably coming to get you. It's a lot to take in with 20 minutes left in the film. For me, I probably, Doug's gonna hate this, I probably would have made this movie like 15 minutes longer. And
agreed.
I would have, I guess one of the themes I would have come out with is like, and this is gonna be like a broken record for some longtime listeners here, but I would have gone with like the solidarity or like how clever and smart Florence Pugh's character is. And one of the ways that you could have done that is that she got the electroshock therapy. And you don't know at that point, you don't know how many times she's gone through this. We don't know how many times that she's been trying to get out, or that this same exact thing has happened before. And I feel like there's a lot of storytelling potential there for her to like reawaken each time and be like, oh, I have a journal, and
remembering a piece.
She's remembering pieces a little bit each time, and maybe working with the other women in the project, maybe not, but having the finale get to this point where it's like you can't keep her down. You can't have this system keep her down while she is this smart and persistent. I feel like there's a way to do that differently than a car chase.
Also,
that's where I'm at.
I love that.
I love that, Brian.
I'm gonna suggest I'm gonna tweak a couple pieces of the movie.
Sure.
Because I don't think that they're satisfying enough if we're trying to really drive this home. And I think they all center around like Chris Pine. So I think
okay.
And stay with me now.
All right.
I think we could have done with more Chris Pine. I think that what I would have loved to have seen is I almost wanted the exposure of what Chris Pine looked like outside of the simulation.
Sure. I wanted the same
I think that you can do that. And here's the way I think you do it. I think you do it so that way, I think you rewrite this so he doesn't get killed. And I think you make the movie a little bit longer, which I'm fine with. You make the movie a little bit longer, and the little bit longer is Florence Pugh realizes that there have been 30 other women who have escaped this particular simulation.
Oh, sure.
And there's a whole class action legal battle where the entire world now sees him take his power away, right? Like he's been able to utilize the internet as his platform.
Okay.
Let's strip him of his power and take the thing that he used to mobilize and accrue his resources, and now everywhere across the internet his real face is trending and he's on trial because it's, you know what I mean? Like there, you could have gone that route with it, and now we're taking to this really, really strong man who is, it's his world and he's created and he's convinced all his followers that this is what needs to happen.
Sure.
And we've now reduced him to like an internet like you're basically victimizing the person who made you feel like a victim. And I think that as a storytelling piece of being powerful from that standpoint would have been awesome. But I wanted to see him outside of the simulation, and I wanted that portion to be exposed. And I think that's because what you did with Florence this whole time is you made her a victim for like 2 hours and 10 minutes, and you never really made it feel like she got that power restored to her.
No, because, and I want to,
at least that's my interpretation.
I feel like Brian has something good to say. I wanted to say, I feel like in this instance where Harry Styles dies because she bashes him over the head, and rightfully so, because he's like squeezing the breath out of her, trying to get her to pass out or whatever.
Yeah, that was very uncomfortable.
That was super uncomfortable. And then Chris Pine gets stabbed by his wife, who says, "It's my turn now."
Yes.
Or what did she say? You stupid little man, or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's my time.
I feel like death was too easy. And that is something that is a concept that should be discovered more in the storytelling, where sometimes killing the big bad it's immediately satisfying, but what is the long-term solution to this? Okay, she escapes, right? And she wakes up in her bed. What happens now? Because
she's still tied up.
How do you take your power back? You're hooked up to an IV. How do you, there's all this trauma that comes from, yes, you got free from the virtual reality, but then you return to a world of hell.
Right.
Because of all the things that you've been through. And that is why I feel like the story kind of like hit this, like it was up, and then it kind of coasted for the rest of the time.
Well, and I think this, with the themes of the movie, I understand why they stopped short, because sometimes, sometimes victory is survival, and I
100%
absolutely vibe with that.
Ryan.
I also
Brian's preaching today, man. Damn.
This movie connected with me, like flaws and all, and like I feel, but I definitely feel like from what you all said is like it's strange to me that there isn't some of this, like, not cathartic but like definitive retaking of that power.
This is the power dynamic of this whole movie. Is you made, like I said, 2 out of the 3 acts of this movie are women are helpless. They're here to serve men. The power dynamic is certainly weighted in one particular area. And your point, Brian, of like sometimes surviving is enough.
That's
like, just getting through it is such a fabulous and beautiful comment.
Right.
For me, I wanted to see like and maybe I got some vengeance stuff that I got to work through. But for me, I wanted to say, like, not only do I want to kill my husband who put me here, I want to get the motherfucker responsible. There were pieces of me that wanted to take that power back in that situation, for sure.
Who am I to say like what a women's centered story should end? I don't know. I would want to talk with people that have significant investment in this and have thoughts on this to see how they feel about it, because and I also know it's not a monolith, but I do feel like I'd be curious to hear people's thoughts of like, did you need something cathartic at the end there of like, you need like a title card of like Florence, like she lived a happy life, or like she broke free, or like did you want like
chased her dream?
Is like the, for lack of a better term, is like the women's liberation fulfillment, like in this, or like the seizing of power back.
Mhm.
Like what it is the best way to portray that, her escaping and just saying like, I'm done. Like
I made it,
don't
right.
participate in the system anymore. Or is it the act of justice of like what does justice look like in a situation like this? And I don't know, which I've said all this and now I understand why they ended with a car scene. I completely understand
maybe there
why
is
they ended with a car chase.
Because maybe that's the easiest. That's not the easiest, but maybe that is a satisfying way to end it. Because if I'm looking at the parallels between that and Get Out, at least in Get Out for me, and I do wonder, as much as Get Out hit for Black people, for me, at least, I don't want to speak for all Black people, but I wonder if this movie hit for women.
That's a great question.
As hard. And the intersectionality of life is also a very complicated thing to look at, because then did this movie hit for Black women or women of color or women in the like LGBTQ community? Like, like, how does this movie hit if it's supposed to be that, right? And at least in Get Out, you know, we have this moment where Daniel Kaluuya he takes the stuff out of the seat and he puts it in his ear, and there's this flip of he went from the hunted to the hunter, and went one by one killing the dad and then killing the mom and then killing the brother and then and that was, to us, when he went down the line, satisfactory.
That was super cathartic
because of the rest of the movie. They were fucking with him and playing with his mind the whole time. So when we get to the end, it felt good to see, for the first time ever, cop lights pull up and it was his homeboy hopping out. Where we thought it was the end. Well, depending on what version because I know there was a deleted scene. I'm glad they did not go with that deleted scene. But like, to me, and I guess that is what I wanted as somebody who's witnessed Get Out. And I'm maybe they couldn't relate to Get Out, and that's perfectly fine. Every movie ain't for everybody. There's a message and stuff that is only solely meant for certain crowds and audiences. So that's, and you made a great point. Sometimes maybe survival is like beautiful. That was beautifully said.
Oh, shucks, y'all.
I think
beautifully said.
So some of the comments, like, because I'm going to see like I'm trying to see like what other people think about this particular movie, which I think is kind of cool. So like, it's like, for example, Noah Berlatsky from NBC News says, "Don't Worry, Darling" is a movie that airily warns you to watch out for illusions, as it even as it reveals in a film's power to create a world deliberately untethered from reality. So people are like really resonating, like the positive reviews on Rotten Tomatoes are very much saying like, you can't be ambivalent, you can't be disconnected, because there might be something treacherous at the core of it, and that's something to pay attention to. And I think that maybe
that's an interesting take.
Yeah. So Amy Nicholson from Film Week and an NPR critic says, "It's a fun movie to just think into and think, all right, if you're not telling me anything new, but you're telling it to me very stylishly." So it's sort of this idea of like, you were able to put things in I think that maybe that's the difference, right? I think what was maybe being done, if I'm trying to crawl into the mind of Olivia Wilde for a moment, is maybe, and again, I'm a man, so this is my perspective and the privilege that comes with that component of my identity. Is maybe she's saying, if I go at this too heavy, people are going to say that's an angry woman with an axe to grind about society. But if I put it in this sexy box and I'm not heavy-handed with it, I mean, I could make a stronger point.
There's totally something to be said there. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I have personally, me, Marcus J. Destin, I got issues with that. That you have the ability to do that.
Oof.
And that is where I'm going to leave that. It's just, you have the option to do that. Oh, no, I'm not standing. I'm standing 10 toes down on this shit. To have the option to do that and make it like, we can put it in this sexy box. If my sole comparison is Get Out and Don't Worry, Darling, Jordan Peele can't put that in a sexy box. You can't.
Okay.
As everything like the social commentary has to be a thriller, because it feels like that on a regular fucking basis to me. Okay. And although I do agree, watching She-Hulk, I don't want to say this sentence, but watching She-Hulk and Don't Worry, Darling, the commentary has been, being a woman is scary as fuck. And it is there is an experience with that men constantly overlook, whether it's jokingly in She-Hulk or it's in this thriller form of Don't Worry, Darling.
Yes.
Right? The comparisons are, it's weird, but this is where my mind went. And it's like, you know, if that was the mind of Olivia Wilde, to put it in this nice and sexy box where everybody looks good for half the movie, like 2/3 of the movie. And then in the last 10 minutes, you try to get this message out. Who is the message for then? I guess is the question.
That's a fair point. And I think
I don't know. Then maybe that's just the question.
And I think the other thing is like, let's realize that both of these movies are a commentary on very real experiences that people have in our society,
different phases,
that people have in our society. And so it's possible that both are true, but I see exactly what you're saying, Marcus, in this concept of like, her privilege gives her the ability to put it in a nice, sexy little box and operate it with it differently. And that point is not lost on me at all. So I think that that's a very valid statement and appreciate you bringing it up.
No, and that's not to make anybody feel. No, they're two different directors telling two different experiences, two different stories. Fine, that's perfectly fine. The movie was good. It's a good movie. There's nothing bad about the damn movie. For sure, it has its things where I want to fix, but what I really want to is like, is this a movie about the social commentary that we think it is, or is it our minds at Film in Black and White where we feel and think a certain way? Oof. Is it really that, or is it really just a movie to do something else?
I think we can totally get caught up in the meta commentary, but to me, at least looking at it without all the filters we just put on it, I mean, it's very clearly a message about the metaphor of being a woman, especially in a man's world, with a desire, and as you get further into the movie, with this crushing desire for men for some men to reassert their control over people. Like, forget the gender identity. Like, they are wanting to assert dominance over people, and that is something very real in our world.
Well, it's a scary idea when folks who previously had control don't have it anymore, and the lengths that they will go to get it back.
Yeah.
And that they will even go so far as to harm the people they love, to
100%.
Harm the people they love to, quote unquote, feel that sense of control again. Oof. And the concepts associated with that power dynamic.
I also want to hit on the cult part of this too. I know we're at the point, but I never want to. There's this great book called Cultish. Yeah, awesome book. If you ever get a chance to read it, please read it. It'll show you that everything in this goddamn world is cult. But I do want to get, because when the way Jack finds out about Frank is through YouTube, you can see that he's looking through this YouTube-ish look.
And he's got like 4chan boards on there too. Yeah.
Right. And so he's like, he minimizes all this stuff. And then when he goes to apply for everything and just like who he wants to be in this life and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
Like, that is a cult. And Frank's playing his podcast over the radio hour every day to double down on the messages that he's trying to say, which based around loyalty and discretion, and this is our world, and we're creating something new, which is this technology where we can be in this world and exist. I understand. I just don't want to overlook that portion of the cult and then the victims of who that cult becomes. Like, if you want to be in the Facebook meta, and that's what you want to be in the 60s and 70s and shit like that, you and Zuckerberg and all y'all go have a good time.
And you're a consenting adult. Have at it. Enjoy your time.
Yeah. But you got your wife chained to a damn bed with an IV in her arm. That's a goddamn because Olivia Wilde was willingly in
the I think there's also something with her character that would have changed the way the commentary could have been made of like she's fine. Like I wish we had gotten more of that dive into her thought process, because hers was very interesting, but it was like quick, like trick or treat, and then it was done. Like it was just
that reveal came less than 5 minutes after the he's dead in real life too.
Yes.
Oh, you need to leave. The redcoats are coming. Like you had no time to process it.
Great 100%.
Yeah. quick, Marcus's book, Cultish, The Language of Fanaticism by Amanda Montell is the book that is worth checking out. I did want to make sure that
Thank you.
we followed up on that. So
I think that's in my office now.
gentlemen, first off, do you recommend people see this movie either in theaters or in general?
Yes. Actually, I would say, yeah, go see it. Because what you got to remember about this podcast is we ain't here to bash the shit. We just here to give you our perspective on it. Other podcasts will bash some shit and they'll make fun of it.
It is so easy to hate on this movie. So I'm glad that
too easy.
Go see it. I'm glad I went to go see it because after I saw it, I'm glad it wasn't what I thought it was, which was just this lovey-dovey 60s piece. Like, okay, go see it, go watch it, go get your own perception. Maybe you won't even see what we saw, right?
Mm-hmm.
Go watch it.
Brian?
I think for me, I think like unless you love Florence Pugh or you love like Harry Styles, I definitely think this is something you can wait for streaming. Obviously, you'd enjoy it in a theater, but if unless you like those two are the things like drawing you in, you can absolutely wait to watch this at home. So I enjoyed it, and I think it's a perfect streamer.
I will say that I would absolutely recommend that you see it. I am thrilled that this movie isn't the 8 different things that I thought it was before seeing it. I am very like pleasantly surprised with where it is. I do think you need to tune out the drama that we covered at the beginning. Like, I think you need to tune that out and you need to not read anything because you're going to read all about this stuff about the production and expect it to be a mess. And there are problems with it, but this is not a bad movie. Like, this is a good movie that's worth seeing. I would say wait to stream it. Like, maybe wait to rent it. Like, the $4 price point, I think is very nice. Like,
I mean, this will come to HBO Max.
Yeah,
so
sooner than later.
Yeah,
I would say 45 days. I would say go see it when it comes to HBO Max. I don't know if I would see it in the theater unless Brian said, unless you're a really, really big fan of Florence Pugh or you're a really big fan of Harry Styles. Otherwise, I think it's worth a wait. And so, yeah,
man, if this movie would have came out just on streaming, it would be 10 stars for me.
Okay. Oh my gosh, I know we're already running up against
You're
time.
fine. You're fine.
I thought about this on the drive home. Is like, I was like, I know they made 20 million on a budget of 35. Alleged, right? Those are the numbers that they estimated at. And like, you just kind of have to wonder, like, man, these mid-budget movies, are they long for the theater? Like, and we've talked about this before, but
it's a very interesting topic.
I like, it's very easy for me to see how they could have put this on streaming and everyone would have been like, great idea. But the other thing about this though, is like I feel like this movie could have been memed to the Victory Project and back. Like, it just makes me wonder, like, if this could have just dominated the weekend and everybody stayed at home and memed about it.
TikTok, it would have
exactly. Yeah. Like, I feel like
agreed.
But then again, that's you're upping HBO Max subscriptions. That's not cash on hand from the box office. And I understand the calculation that goes there, but now we're getting to a point of like cultural impact and like.
Well,
would it have?
Because if you remember,
there's so much to pick apart.
You also have to keep this in mind with HBO Max specifically, because they're trying to dig themselves out of $300 million. They're trying to dig themselves out of $300 million deficit. This is
one of 2 movies this fall for them.
Your comment, Brian, is like, are they long for this world? If Discovery, HBO, Discovery Warner Media doesn't see these movies returning on the investment of putting them in a theater, this is what we can expect from streaming. And is that a good thing or a bad thing? Marcus, I interrupted.
No, I wanted to double down on what Brian was saying of, if you were to put this on HBO Max, HBO Max is leaving soon, but also with all the drama that surrounded this movie, people would have subscribed and wanted to watch this movie.
I feel like
because it would have been more easily accessible, as opposed to I have to go to a physical theater to watch it. If I'm hearing all this drama on TikTok, I'm hearing people watch it and they see it on TikTok and all this other stuff. It's easier for me to sign up for a subscription real quick and watch this movie and stream it 1,000,000 times and watch it with friends and discuss it. I feel like that would be, I don't know what the end result is going to be. This movie's going to be successful regardless, right? But I think that's a conversation that we still have not had, and I don't know the answer to. But
For sure.
I mean, and they were banking WB. I believe or at least there was an analysis, and I can't remember the publication, but basically they were like, they need Black Adam and Don't Worry, Darling to just like
Crush it.
perform really well, because these are the only two movies that they have coming out the rest of the year, and this is like it for revenue generation. So like I get why they went to the theater, but looking at it from a streamer perspective, it's like, this could have been a banging streamer release, but
100%.
I get it.
100%. Gentlemen, anything that you all have to plug this week?
TheLoveNerds.com.
There it is.
It's me. Go check out TheLoveNerds.com. My wife runs TheLoveNerds.com. All of your lifestyle, recipes, apparel, party ideas, it's all there. TheLoveNerds.com.
Awesome. Fantastic. Marcus?
You want to follow the mantra, never offended, always humble. Go hit the link in my bio. Go stream some music. Max is out. Max is doing very well. Max, the single hit 1,500 streams this week. And so we are doing great. I appreciate everybody who listens and loves the music. Go hit the link in our bio. Go buy yourself some Noah gear. New Noah gear is on the way. But always remember, no matter what, follow the mantra, never offended, always humble.
Absolutely. I have two things I want to plug. The first is this podcast. Continue to support us, share us with a friend, leave us a review. They are very, very helpful. If you're feeling so inclined, you want to join us for our weekly live stream, go to patreon.com/films in black and white, join the Patty family, watch the live stream with us. I do also want to plug, Brian and I have a friend of ours. He and his buddy are working on releasing an album in Wisconsin. So Jacob Wood and his friend are the Listening Party is their band name. They have a big Kickstarter going on right now. So if you really like supporting independent artists like we do with our pal Marcus, go over to listeningpartymusic.com. Their promotion runs through October 6th. So be sure to check them out. And if you feel so inclined, support local artists across the board. It's important.
I mean, folks, if you like your Lumineers, you like your Mumford and Sons, you like those folks, then the Listening Party is going to be for you. After you go listen to Maxed on Spotify, you can head over to the Listening Party
100%.
And check out their stuff. And it's an easy way to support artists that don't have the type of capital
behind them
and resources that some of the major labels that you have. They're trying to do it. They're based in Milwaukee, but they've been all around, and I've seen them play. They're great. So
they're fantastic.
Head to Kickstarter, check out the Listening Party, donate if you are able.
Absolutely. But most important thing, so we have a 3-step process to success.
Yeah, we do.
And those steps are very, very, very strongly encouraged. But Brian, what is our first step?
Hey folks, we're going to read a book. You need to read a book. The conversation you heard here tonight was powered by books. Marcus mentioned a book called Cultish. All of this knowledge about talking about, hey, these people are from like these types of podcasts. I did that by reading the news and think pieces and analysis of, hey, why are these people saying these really bad things?
Great question.
I understand now. It's this type of perspective. When Doug was mentioning everything that happened with this movie, he read a piece about the breakdown of every single bullet point of what was going on with this movie. Read a book, read analysis, read a timeline, read a book.
Our second step to success is to drink some water. Look, y'all, staying hydrated is important to your overall health. If you're feeling so inclined, drink a bubbler.
Oh yeah, get that bubbler.
At this point in time, I'm promoting bubbler because I can. But yes, so drink a water. If you're feeling so inclined, want to spice it up, maybe make it a bubbler. I will also say that just plain water is good for you too, and you should enjoy good plain water as well. But don't be afraid to change it up in a while. Have yourself a bubbler with your regular water, and you'll be hydrated to perfection. So, and Marcus, what is our third step to success?
Our third step to success is to wash that ass. You know what Harry Styles didn't do before he signed up to be British in this cult? He didn't wash his ass. He looked disgusting.
No ass washing for him.
That is the worst I've ever seen. And you know what else can't happen if you don't wash your ass? That pork dinner can't get pushed to the side off the plate on the thing between Harry and Flo. That can't happen unless you wash your ass. So if you want that, or you want handsome Harry, you gotta wash your ass.
That's a great way to put it. I appreciate that. That does it for this week's episode of Films in Black and White. We will be back next week, same time, same place. We hope that you all have a great week. So in the meantime, in the between time, stay safe, stay healthy. We love y'all. We appreciate y'all. Live. And we will catch y'all next week.
We love you. I'm worried, darling. You think I'll get canceled after this podcast?
I mean, I hope not.
I don't believe so.
I will say it's a sinking ship. If you get canceled, we all get canceled.
Well, I'm black.